Kahala Yahal Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Ha Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostle elders of the great millstone. Honors to you, brothers, who are bringing out this word, man. Okay, it's in sincerity and in faith. This is another video, man. Another video. Videos on videos, man. It's so many videos. you can't go through them all, man. All right, here's another one. Millions of hungry Americans turn to food banks for the first time. You're going to see more of this, man. You're going to see famine out here. It says the deadly pandemic that tore through the nation's heartland struck just as Aaron Crawford was in a moment of crisis. He was looking for work. His wife needed surgery. Then the virus began eating away at her work hours and her paycheck. The Crawfords had no savings, mounting bills, and a growing dread. What if they ran out of food? So, see, the Crawfords really is the average American household. Okay, the couple had 2 boys, 5 and 10, and boxes of macaroni and cheese from the dollar store could only go so far. A 37-year-old Navy vet, Crawford saw himself as self-reliant. Asking for food made him uncomfortable, and that's that pride, man. that's that pride, which a lot of people, oh, I can never take food from a food bank, and shit. Hey, man, hey, Jake grew up off of food bank food, man. Jake, grew up on the big brown box, your cans, what I mean? But a lot of people aren't used to that. Okay, it says, I felt like I was a failure. He says, it's this whole stigma, this mindset that you're this guy who can't provide for his family, that you're a deadbeat. Hunger is a harsh reality in the richest country in the world. So they say that, America is the greatest country in the world. It's the richest country to ever exist, right? And then that's why in the book of Revelation, right, when it says the daughter of Babylon is speaking about America. Okay, it says hunger is a harsh reality. All right, even during times of prosperity, schools hand out millions of hot meals a day to children, and desperate elderly Americans are sometimes forced to choose between medicine and food. Yeah, and a lot of Jake, speaking about Israel, grew up in the lunch line. All right, I myself, man, all throughout school, I was receiving free lunch, reduced lunch. Sometimes when they didn't have the waivers for the food, you'd have to take that bag lunch, a bologna sandwich, some juice and some carrots, and that's what you had. You know what I mean? Because your folks couldn't afford, to put money, on the books. And you had certain people who, they never went without. They always had food. Their parents, packing their lunch, writing notes on the lunch, cutting off the crust. Now them same people, man, they hurt. It says, let's continue to go down. It says, Sornick and Gabriel hold gift cards received by their parents, Aaron and Sheila Crawford, outside their Apple Valley, Minnesota home. Now, looking at this, once again, this guy right here, he could be a Jake, but from what I'm looking at, he looking like an Edomite to me, man. All right, and then the woman to his left, of course, you got Eve. Yeah, Eve and Esau is the match made in hell, man. Through, hey, and when you look at these 2 kids right here, these could be tares, man. Cause see, you are what your father is. Let's say that this guy right here is an Edomite. Then these 2 kids right here, they're Edomites. Now they look. Now when you look at them, they kind of look like Ishmael, which is really odd. You know what I mean? They look kind of like Ishmael. They look kind of like Elam, but you see that their mother is a so-called black woman, right? And their father, right, is a so-called white man. Now, once again, he could be a Jake, you know, but from what I'm seeing, you know, just kind of hearing what he's saying, you know, it sounds like an Edomite to me. Once again, he's gonna figure that one out. It says, now in the pandemic of 2020, with illness, job loss, and business closures, millions more Americans are worried about empty refrigerators and barren cupboards. Which, hey, man, once again, hey, Jake came up, man. Jake couldn't get, snacks, and the snacks that you did have, man, yeah, hey, you had one. You had one snack. Your ass wasn't getting 5, 6, 7, 8 snacks, man. If you had cereal, you had one box of cereal. You don't have 3, 4, 5 different types of cereal. You had one box of cereal. That's it. You know what I mean? Food banks are doling out meals at a rapid pace, and an Associated Press data analyst found a sharp rise in the amount of food distributed compared with last year. So the famines are ramping up, right? Meanwhile, some folks are skipping meals so their children can eat, and others are depending on cheap food that lacks nutrition. That's all part of the plan. Okay? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 1. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. Speaking about America. So you see this guy, right? He said he was a Navy veteran and all this. So he thought he was always going to be set up, And that, see, the spirit of America trickles down through the men here. Okay, people say, oh, I was a veteran. They believe that that's enough, right? It's all about the glory. It's the glorification of it all, right? And he done made his money, man. See, he shouldn't have been bullshitting. And I can tell he's got that bullshitting spirit. If you look up, he's on bullshit. You can tell. He ain't never think nothing like this was gonna happen. And it's a reality check out here, man. It says, those fighting hunger say that they've never seen anything like this in America, even during the Great Recession of 2007, 2009. So it's even worse than then, right? Okay, it says, let me continue. Revelation chapter 18 and verse 7, I'm going to start at the top. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. So yeah, all this happened at once, right? The different plagues, right? The different deaths, the mourning, right? And also famine. It just happened. Boom. Seemed like just yesterday everything was cool, right? But what's the end result of all of this? And she shall be utterly burned with fire, and that's through the nuclear missiles. For strong is the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, who judgeth her. So he's going to judge this place through the missiles. That is the Lord's great army. Okay? that shall not break their ranks. Okay? Because the missiles cannot break their ranks. It's a GPS guided device, man. It ain't wherever it says it's going, it's going. It says, the first place many Americans are finding relief is a neighborhood food pantry, most connected to vast networks of nonprofits, which a lot of that is through the church. And I'll say that we grew up off of the food from the church, man. You folks go down to the church, they hand you a box of food. You get home. You going through the boxes, you just happy. Like, oh shit, we got some food, man. And it's great, But it's a lot of people who they don't believe that they can do that. They think, oh, I'm too good for that. But now you're seeing people, hey, they humble down. You know, let me go and get this food from the pantry. You know, which for you brothers, man, if you can, hey, go to these different churches if they're handing out boxes of food. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, you can get that food. You know, for you brothers who can get food stamps, get the food stamps. You know what I mean? That's advice from our apostle elders, man. If they paying for a phone, you know, that Obama phone, get it, man. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Now, when you get the food, you know, look through it, make sure, you know, it's good to eat, it's clean to eat. You know, make sure that it ain't no abominations in there. But you know, if it's good, you know, go ahead, get it. It says tons of food move each day from grocery store discards and government handouts to warehouse distribution centers and then to the neighborhood charity. So yeah, man, you brothers, you know, you do what you can, man. Let's see if this video will play.
It's 150, 200 cars starting at 12 o'clock at night. So by the time 3, 4 o'clock in the morning gets here, it's an ongoing thing with cars until they close. Everybody's just worried about their next meal. Everybody can't work from home, and everybody doesn't have careers where they can just operate on a computer and still have their income coming in. Somebody like me that's a limousine driver, shuttle bus driver, a bus boy, it really brought me into a deficit.
Corn tortillas, half a dozen eggs, which is helpful. I found at first I wasn't telling anybody I was going to food pantries, and then I decided that was just like keeping a secret makes things get worse and makes me feel worse about myself. And so I decided that it was more important to talk about it, like, you know, I have to pay my electric bill and I have to go to the food pantry.
Up. Okay. Perfect.
Our patrons are so thrilled to be able to get the extra protein in their bags.
It doesn't matter whether you work or not. You give an ID and you get, each patrons get 1 bag of food.
All right, there you go. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Por lo mismo de la pandemia, que no puede trabajar uno, trabaja uno un día, 2 días, a veces nada, tiene uno hijos, y pues no alcanza el dinero.
I think that's interesting.
If I didn't have my job, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have Hillside. It would be very hard.
Thank you.
Good to go.
It's really going to be hard to see a future, you know, unless they decide stimulus or bail you out. If it wasn't for the food drives, we would starve. This is what you call a blessing.
See, Jake came up off that. You know what I mean? Jake came up off that. It ain't. I mean, we could go on and on about the stories, man. You know, you get the milk, you get the bread, you get the cheese. You know, and you might be able to afford to buy, maybe some tomatoes, a little meat. You make that sandwich, and you eat. And you see that a lot of the people in here, you seen that they were the children of Israel, man. That's part of the curses. That's part of being here, man. And ultimately, hey, man, for the things that we've done, we deserve that. It's wisdom shows you that, the things you've done in this life and your past lives have caused you to be at this point, man. And 2/3 of Israel isn't going to acknowledge that. Now, of course, 1/3 of Israel is going to acknowledge that, be saved, by following the law, statutes, and commandments, and ultimately turning towards the Heavenly Father. And every day, the elect is being sealed more and more and more. It says, the Crawfords turned to the Family Resource Centers and Food Shelf. It says a non-profit, 15 minutes away from their apartment in Minnesota. When needed, they receive monthly boxes of fresh produce, dairy, deli meat, and other basics, enough to fill 2 grocery carts. If that runs out, they can get an emergency package to tide them over for the rest of the month. Crawford's wife, Sheila, had insisted they seek help. Her hours had been cut at the daycare center where she worked. At first, Crawford was embarrassed to go to the food shelf. He worried he'd bump into someone he knew. He now sees it differently. It didn't make me a bad man or a terrible husband or father, he says. On the contrary, I was actually doing something to make sure that my wife and kids had something to eat. The history books are filled with iconic images of America's struggles against hunger. Among the most memorable are the Depression-era photos of men standing in bread lines, huddling in long coats and fedoras, their eyes large with fear. An overhead sign reads, "Free soup, coffee, and a donut for the unemployed." The year's portrait of hunger has a distinctively bird's eye view, enormous traffic jams captured from drone-carrying cameras, cars inching along, each driver waiting hours for a box or bag of food. And see, when you're waiting in them lines, man, you wasting gas. That's the same gas you need to go to work, take your kids to school, so on and so forth. It says from Anaheim, California to San Antonio, Texas, to Toledo, Ohio, and Orlando, Florida, so yeah, everywhere. And points in between, thousands of vehicles carrying hungry people queued up for miles across the horizon. In New York and other large cities, people stand, waiting for blocks on end. Just say waiting, That's part of the curses, man. You see the cars, man. You see the food banks loading boxes. The newly hungry have similar stories. Their industry collapsed. They lost a job. Their hours were cut. An opportunity fell through because of illness. Handwritten closed signs appeared on the windows of stores and restaurants. Soon after the pandemic arrived, paychecks shrank or disappeared altogether as unemployment skyrocketed to 14.7%. That's spiritual, a rate not seen in almost a century. Yeah, that's spiritual, man. 14 is 7 plus 7, 0.7. So, 7.7%, Food banks felt the pressure almost immediately. Feeding America, the nation's largest anti-hunger organization, scrambled to keep up as states locked down and schools, many providing free breakfast and lunches, closed. Yeah, and once again, man, hey, Jake came up off a free lunch. Jake came up off a reduced lunch, man. And we used to have to remember our code, type that code in. The lunch lady, she know you ain't got no money, so she might put a little extra on the tray, man. And a lot of our mothers, aunties, used to work in them cafeterias. And when you look in the cafeterias, mostly those are the children of Israel back there. Miss Gladys, Miss Ruthie May, serving up lunch, serving up breakfast and lunch, for years, man. For years and years. It says in late March, 20%, you know, and that's the spirit. But, you know, the different lunch ladies, man, you know, you may have had a lunch lady, you have kids, and your kids are in the same lunch line, man, getting served by the same lady. You know, Ruthie Mae working at the cafeteria, you know, 35 years, you know. It says, in late March, 20% of the organization's 200 food banks were in danger of running out of food. So even the food banks need a food bank, you know. It says, let me go down to right here. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her, meaning to cry, when they shall see the smoke of her burning. So yeah, when this place is completely destroyed, right, you're going to have different people around the world crying, right? Verse 10, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Yeah, from them missiles, right? Verse 11, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. So, you know, Nestle, Unilever, all right, Mondelez, all these different food companies, right, and companies in general, they're gonna weep and cry, and see these different food companies are making money, okay, through these churches, through these nonprofits, by doing tax write-offs on this food that they're giving. A lot of this food is older food. It might be expired or close to expired. You know, so they just give it away, write it off, and they make that money. Let's go down. It says, Feeding America, U.S. food distribution. So pounds of food. So this was 2019, quarter one, and look at 2020, quarter one. Look at that increase, man. That's over 500 million pounds of food, you know. That's a major increase, and that's going to skyrocket too, man. Feeding America estimates those facing hunger will swell to 1 in 6 people, from 35 million in 2019 to more than 50 million by this year's end. And it's going to double, it's going to triple, it's going to quadruple. All right, it says the consequences are even more dire for children, 1 in 4, which eventually that's going to be like 3 in 4. You know, really, ultimately, unless you're of the elect, you're going to starve out. Either that or, you may get put in a concentration camp. You may get shot. You may get ravaged by wild animals. It's going to be, the animals are going to be hungry out here. You know, go ahead and get that. This is the book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 19. As if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. Yeah, so there's going to be animals out here. Then with these quarantines, the animals are starting to roam out. They're starting to kind of go into the streets again. They're looking for food too, just like the people are looking for food. The animals are looking for food too. So you're going to have lions out here, bears out here, monkeys out here. It's all the animals are going to be out here, and the Lord's going to put the spirit, a vengeful spirit on these animals, man. And He's going to put a spirit of vengeance on the people. See if I can get that too. That's not the one I was looking for. Well, this will do. This is actually a pretty good one. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 30. For we know him that hath said, Vengeance belongeth unto me, which is the heavenly Father. I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. So 2/3 of Israel is to be judged, man. Okay, ultimately judged. Now we're all going to be judged. All of Israel's going to be judged, but judged with death, man. Is going to fall upon 2/3 of Israel. And before you say, "Oh, yeah, how could he?" You gotta think about it, man. You know, we're a wicked people, man. Okay. In 4 states, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and Louisiana, more than 1 in 5 residents are expected to be food insecure by year's end, meaning they won't have money or resources to put food on the table. You know, it says she has 2 grown children who have moved home since the pandemic began. And yeah, man, more people are moving home now more than ever, man. This is a hard thing to accept, that you have to do this, right? Every morning she monitors the local news for announcements on the next food donation. She tries to attend as many as she can, sometimes sharing the food with the less mobile neighbors. You know, and that's Jake right there. No matter how bad Jake is in a position, you know, they trying to help. You know, and that's part of Israel, man. Israel is a giver. It says a job loss has driven more people to need help getting food. So you see the yellow, enough of desired foods. The beige, enough food but not desired type. You know, the kind of orange, sometimes not enough to eat. The brown, often not enough to eat. And the gray is dead. So you see the lost employment and the currently employed. You can see. Okay, you can see what's going on here. Okay, it says Dower faces painful choices. I either pay bills or get food, she says, though these donations have brought some relief. Yeah, so I basically hit all the points that I needed to in this video. You know, if you need to, you can just and you can look, you can tell right here, look, this is Esau. This is Esau Edom. Right here, you can tell. You can look at her and you can tell, man, at one point, man, she was in them caves. Alright? You look at the guy right here, you can tell he was in them caves, man, in his past life. And see, I don't feel no sort of way about these people right here. There's no reason to, man. You should know their inner thoughts. If you knew their inner thoughts, I mean, you would feel the same way. All right. See, they consider this their country. You know, you niggas stay out of the way and let us figure out how we're gonna raise our country back up. You know, they probably got you know, watching, you know, Fox News in the background talking shit. You know, they had the spiritual demon Satan, right, has a physical counterpart, and it's these people right here. Because you just look, they just look like just death. They just look like death. All right. And I don't want to read their story, man. I don't want to read their story. Who gives a shit? You know? You see Alaska, in which for a little bit, I used to live in Alaska, man. It's crucial. So I can imagine what they're going through. Look, it says, I feel great knowing that we're not alone, that we're, you know, not out here being the only ones suffering, but it makes me mad to know my government failed us. So yeah, she thinks that, okay, well, how come my people didn't help me out? See, Esau don't care about Esau. That's why he speaks about sedition amongst men. Esau don't care about Esau. He has this. He and she has the spiritual demon Satan within them. There is no care. All right, now you got certain people. You got certain people who look like these people right here, but are actually the children of Israel. Okay. But just me with a spiritual eye, as I'm looking at them, they're Edomites. Point blank. Now, I could be wrong, but from what I'm seeing. Right here, you got the tribe of Issachar, these so-called Mexicans. All right, they could be Zebulon. They could be Zebulon. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like Issachar, man. You got the mom right here. She got her kids. Pops is either at work or he just not around. Hey, that's what they got to eat on that table right there, man. And she gonna combine that with some eggs, some milk. She gonna make it happen. And that's part of the curses, man. But these people right here, these are the children of Israel also. And the man right here, Elio, right here I think he's Elio. I'm not sure, the different names. But right here, he's the man of the house. He got to be the man of the house. And that's part of the curses, man. That's a lot of pressure for a kid. But in the kingdom of heaven, man, this man's gonna be a great man. Now he could be of the 2/3 of Israel and have to get destroyed on this side, as punishment. It is what it is. Ultimately, in the kingdom, he's gonna be all right. His sister's gonna be all right. His mother gonna be all right, and that's something to look forward to. So, Barak call Akim to you, brothers, man. Call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Ha Rakah Quadash. Double honors to the apostle elders of the great millstone who rule well. All right, teach well, and honors to you, brothers, who are bringing out this word, sealing the hopeful elect of Israel, man. All right, shalom.